Hello, friends. Imagine waking up one morning. The weather is wonderful, the sun is shining, and you decide to go to the beach. You arrive at the shore, take off your shoes, and put your feet in the water. But suddenly, you notice something strange. The ocean water is no longer salty. You taste a little of it and say, "Wait, this tastes like normal water." Within a few hours, the news spreads around the world. All the oceans on Earth have turned into fresh water. At first, many people might say, "Great! Now the global water shortage problem is solved." But if we think a little more deeply, it may not be good news at all. First, let's understand why ocean water is salty. This story goes back millions of years. When rain falls on mountains and land, the water slowly dissolves small amounts of salt and minerals from rocks. Rivers carry these minerals into the oceans. But when ocean water evaporates and rises into the sky, only the water goes up and the salt remains. As a result, over millions of years, the oceans have gradually become salty. In fact, each liter of seawater contains about 35 grams of salt. There is another important point as well. Salt water evaporates more slowly than fresh water. If the oceans were fresh, evaporation would happen faster, and this could change the natural water cycle. Faster evaporation means more water vapor entering the atmosphere, and this can affect rainfall patterns, weather systems, and even storms. Now imagine that all the salt suddenly disappears. The first creatures affected would be marine life. Almost all fish, corals, and marine plants have evolved to live in salt water. If the oceans suddenly become fresh, the balance of water and salt in their bodies will collapse. In biology, this is called osmotic shock. As a result, many marine creatures would not survive. If this happened, billions of marine organisms would die in the oceans. Over time, the decomposition of this massive amount of dead life could create a very strong and unpleasant smell along coastlines and even across large parts of the world. And the issue is not only about the oceans. If marine life disappears, seafood would almost disappear from restaurant menus. There would be no more salmon, shrimp, tuna, sushi, or many popular seafood dishes. Menus would probably become very simple: pasta, chicken, and more pasta. But the problem is not only marine life. Salt plays a very important role in ocean currents. The oceans act like a massive heat transport system for our planet. They move warm water from tropical regions toward colder regions and help regulate Earth's climate. Salt water is heavier and denser than fresh water. In polar regions, cold and salty water sinks into the deep ocean and creates powerful global ocean currents. If the oceans were not salty, this system could be disrupted. As a result, some parts of the Earth could become much colder and others much warmer. There is another important concept: ocean balance. The world's oceans are interconnected and act as a single global system. Differences in water salinity help water move around the planet. If all the oceans were sweetened, these differences would disappear. As a result, global ocean circulation would weaken, and the overall ocean balance would be disrupted. This would disrupt a global network on which the entire Earth's climate depends. But there is another important consequence: human behavior. If the oceans were fresh, humans would likely use them as the largest source of fresh water on Earth. Countries could extract vast amounts of ocean water for agriculture, industry, and cities. Coastal cities would grow rapidly, and agriculture would expand on a large scale. But this widespread use could upset the natural balance of the oceans and ecosystems. The natural water cycle could be altered, and coastal environments could be damaged. Another interesting fact: salt water is denser than fresh water, which is why we float more easily in seawater. If the oceans were sweetened, the human body would sink more easily in water. One might say, "I used to float here easily.
Why am I sinking now?
But perhaps the most important effect involves Earth's oxygen. A large portion of Earth's oxygen is produced by tiny ocean organisms called phytoplankton. These microscopic organisms act like plants and produce oxygen using sunlight. If ocean salinity changes, these organisms might be affected. And if their population decreases, even the amount of oxygen on Earth could be affected. At first glance, freshwater oceans might seem like a wonderful idea, but in reality, ocean salt is one of the most important factors that keeps Earth in balance. The oceans are not just huge bodies of water. They are a complex, interconnected system of currents, salinity, and global climate balance. Sometimes things that seem simple, like ocean salt, are actually part of a very complex system that took millions of years to form. And now a question for you. If one day we could remove all the salt from the oceans, should we do it? Or is it better to leave nature as it is? What do you think? And by the way, we would really appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel and stay with us.